based on maximizing user engagement, growth, and profits, which incentivizes increasingly extreme content. Joining us now is Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. She was the target of a terror plot to kidnap her in 2020. She also won re-election last week, defeating her Trump-backed opponent, Tudor Dixon, by double digits in one of the nation's most important battleground states. Governor, thank you. Congratulations on your win. We're really glad that you could join us this morning. And I want to talk to you about this, because I know this can be very personal to talk about these issues, especially if you've been a target of one of these. Of one of these plots. Let's start with the warning over this domestic extremism. Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas says that domestic violent extremism poses the most lethal and persistent terrorism-related threat to the country right now. What needs to be done?
Well, first of all, congratulations on the show. I'm glad to be with you. And I think our overwhelming victory last week tells you that the public doesn't want extremism. They want people who are going to make their lives better, solve problems. Extremism doesn't help people pay the bills. What does is a good paying job, and a governor is going to solve problems. All that being said, this rise in extremism is dangerous. My opponent from last week was a conspiracy theorist, election denier who stoked political violence and sought to undermine our confidence in our institutions. That represents the biggest danger to our democracy. Threats against fellow Americans are not acceptable, whether they are aimed at a Democratic governor or a Republican congressperson like Fred Upton or Peter Meyer here in Michigan. We've got to take a stand against this. And I do think that social media plays a big role in it. And I'm hoping Congress will tackle this.
Listen, the FBI said they're concerned about the lethality, especially the racially motivated violent extremists, as well as the spike that started in 2020 of anti-government, anti-authority violent extremism. That was according to Christopher Wray, who sat beside Secretary Mayorkas here at the hearing. But this is a question we often talk about a lot. We hear a lot about foreign terrorism, right? Terrorism that is imported. But the biggest threat is coming from the United States. Why is it so uncomfortable for people to discuss and tackle this issue?
I think just by speaking out against it, you make yourself potentially a target of it. And yet we need smart, strong, good motivated people to do exactly that, to hold people accountable. I'm really grateful that we have prosecutors and an attorney general here in Michigan and the FBI and federal prosecutors who have prosecuted these plotters who wanted to kidnap and kill me. They've gotten a number of convictions. I think that accountability is really important. But just by taking it on, makes yourself a target of it, and that's a scary, dangerous prospect. Mm-hmm. But we can't let that dissuade us from being bold and holding people accountable. Mm.
Governor, good morning. Thanks. We're so glad you're here. Let's talk about your win, a resounding win, 11 points. You won independents by 13 points. And just more broadly in the state, you've now got the state house and the Senate pretty soon. First time that's happened in 40 years. And you said yesterday, I'm excited about what I think we're going to be able to get done. Can you tell us what's at the top of your list? What pieces of legislation is it?
Yeah, well, just to give you even a little more context, this has only happened 4 times in 130 years here in Michigan, which is amazing. So I really think we're going to be able to, do even more when it comes to the agenda, whether it's fixing the damn roads, expanding what we have done, or continuing to build toward making Michigan a top 10 state for literacy. It's these fundamentals that have always been front and center. But fundamental rights were a big part of this election, too. And so while we've amended our Constitution, we went from Michigan having one of the most potentially extreme anti-choice laws in the books in the country. We've now enshrined that in the Constitution, but I still want to wipe that 1931 law off the books, and I know the legislature will be eager to get that to my desk.
What about on guns? Because I found it interesting. You were able to win some traditionally red parts of your state, and not all those voters there are going to agree with what you've been wanting to change on gun laws in the state. Are you going to compromise with them? What are you going to push for?
So we are now, sadly, almost on the 1-year anniversary of the Oxford shooting. And it was, of all the hard days I've had to navigate my state through, that was without question for me personally the hardest, because I do this work because I love people and I want to support families, and a family that's lost a child to gun violence there's nothing you can do to make that better. What we can do, though, is enact common sense, proven policies that will keep guns out of the hands of people that pose a threat. So whether it's secure storage for gun owners or it is background checks and red flag laws, I believe those are proven. We can take that action, and I'm confident with this new group of legislators that we will be able to find some common ground pretty quickly on that front.
Governor, I've got two questions for you. One is a little bit Michigan specific, but, noting the fact that Democrats are in control of the governor's mansion, the House and the Senate for the first time since 1983. One of the things you have said you want to do also is repeal the Right to Work Act, which essentially prohibits contracts that require workers to pay union fees as a condition of employment. There's been some criticism of that. Maybe it could hurt job growth. What's the argument for repealing that?
So I think one of the things that we often see when it comes to conversations like this is false choice, right? We are seeing our economy thriving here in Michigan. We've announced record investments, bringing supply chains home, building semiconductors in Michigan, EVs, batteries. This is, we are leading and earning incredible investment. We also know that a worker's ability to negotiate fair wages and time off with their family is really fundamental to the middle class that was built in this country, in the state of Michigan. And so I reject, false choices that you can only do one or the other. We know that the auto industry has been thriving. They have a unionized workforce. And so it's important that we are thoughtful and strategic as we move forward, but ensuring that hardworking men and women can bargain for fair wages is something that is kind of front and center for so many families here. And that's why I think we'll continue to look at making some progress in this space.
I know Republicans in your state have said they'd like to fight that. On another note, you've been asked a lot in almost basically every interview you've done recently about a 2024 run and running for president. You've said you're not interested in it. I guess my question is, if you're a supporter of yours and you're someone who doesn't live in Michigan but is national and wants to see you run, what is the argument for you not running for president?
I literally 8 days ago got elected to a second four-year term. This is, the state that I've always called home. I love the state of Michigan. I am so grateful to be the governor of the state of Michigan. I've got a big task ahead of me, and that's where I'm going to put 100% of my focus for now. I do think that it's flattering that people continue to ask, but I got a big job that I was just hired to do for 4 more years, and that's where I'm going to stay focused.
Okay.
Thank you, Governor.
For now, we heard for now in that answer.
Yes. I'm glad you
I know,
said
everyone's going to parse it. I'm staying right where I'm at. Thank you.
And I feel ganged up on because apparently you guys called each other for the
The pink
memo.
day? Yeah.
I didn't get it.
It's Thursday.
That's okay.
Time to get on board.